Hello, thank you for joining me. My name is Tyler Perriard, and today I'm going to share my research that I conducted at Bertrand Area Schools, and we're going to look at student success and student perception on teacher philosophies. So these teaching philosophies, we set up some surveys to see how students' perceptions of these impact their rate of success, and our guiding questions for this were: can students' perceptions of teachers' philosophies predict the academic success that a student might have? And do students who have found academic success have a different perception of teacher philosophies than their peers who have not experienced success? So essentially what we'd like to know is if students who are successful academically have a different outlook on how their teachers act than students who have not. And to be honest with you, we were quite interested in what we found. First of all, our population for the survey itself, we used high school seniors. This school year's high school seniors from Bertrand Area Schools, both at Bertrand High School and Progressive High School. The difference in these schools is that Bertrand High School is a traditional high school, grades 9 through 12, and primarily those are teacher-led classrooms. Now with some new legislation, we do have obviously some online classes taking place at this high school, but the vast majority of these classes are teacher-led. However, at Progressive High School, this is the district's alternative program, and these classes are done primarily online. We also have teacher-led elective courses available at Progressive High School. However, all of their core classes are taken using Edgenuity, an online program. Another main difference between these two schools is the student population as far as actual numbers. Bertrand High School has approximately 600 students, while Progressive High School has approximately 60. So there's quite a large difference between the two schools as far as size. Bertrand is a rural mid-Michigan community. Essentially, this school is centered around a farming community that also has a very large mall located on I-75. So our students are exposed to a couple different types of cultures within one community, which makes for a pretty interesting blend of students. The district is primarily made up of Caucasian students, with the largest minority group being of Hispanic descent. We do have students of all ethnicities. However, they are less than 1% of the student population. To gather data for this, we asked students to complete a survey via their Google account. This year is our first year using Google accounts for students district-wide. Each student has their own Gmail setup, as well as a Google Drive account. This allows us to have a pretty streamlined approach to any of our communication online. It works out really well. They can only use these accounts for communicating with people that have a BertrandSchools.org account. Also, during this survey, each student was giving time during class to complete this. This was one of our challenges that we faced. In order to have full participation in this was a must to get this data gathered. However, it is challenging to ask staff to take time out of their day to complete a survey like this. However, the staff at Bertrand High School was very supportive of this after explaining to them why this data was being collected. It was important to make sure they knew that this wasn't an attempt to attack their philosophies, rather to find a way to help students who might need it. We're looking at a pretty large population of students at Progressive High School, 60 students in our small community that have failed to have success at the traditional high school. as well as many others at the traditional high school, and we're looking for ways to reach them so that they can find the success that others have as well. All right, our expected outcomes actually ended up being very much different than our actual results. We expected to have students who struggled would have negative perceptions of their teachers' philosophies, and while in some cases that was true, it wasn't consistent enough to call it a correlation. We also expected students who have had success, would have mixed feelings about these philosophies, and that was fairly true. We had essentially mixed responses across the board, whether the students were from Progressive High School or from Bertrand High School, and regardless of their GPA, how many courses they've passed, things like that. We actually couldn't find a correlation between students' perception of teacher philosophies and their success. We did have one unexpected outcome, however. Student responses did show a correlation between students who have attended multiple high schools and their perception of teacher philosophies. Over 80% of these students expressed some negative feelings about their teacher philosophies. As a school, it's going to be important for us to develop a plan to help students who come to us from other high schools or transfer from Bertrand High School to Progressive High School to have a positive experience in our educational setting. This plan will be included in the final report that will be submitted next week. And finally, some adjustments for future surveys. First of all, I would create a shorter window for student responses. The window here was approximately 10 school days or 2 weeks. That created a lot of challenges in gathering data and having all the data in one place. Now, obviously, using Google to collect this data made that a little bit more streamlined. However, just that's a long time period that I would adjust for next time. Excuse me. Also, we would include fewer demographic questions. Now, one challenge to including fewer demographic questions would limit our ability to come up with this alternative outcome that we ended up finding, that students who attend multiple high schools tend to see their teacher philosophies in a negative light. However, this just became a little cumbersome with how many we did include. And lastly, I would like to include a larger student population. Using just the seniors, there were only about 12 seniors from Progressive High School that participated, and from Bertrand High School there was just over 100, around 110 or 115. So total, we really didn't have a very large student population for this survey, and I think that we would have maybe more clear results if we expanded that. So please offer up your suggestions for how I can go about implementing a plan to help these students who have transferred into our district, who seem to have a more negative view on teacher philosophies, as well as any other feedback you'd like to share. I appreciate your time. Thank you.